All right, y'all, we are back in this Marvel thing, and we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier just premiered on Disney Plus, and I'm excited to jump back into the Marvel universe. This series comes off just like a Marvel film, a feature film that would hit theaters, and now I'm back to what I'm used to. WandaVision threw me for a little bit of a loop, but let's talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 1. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier picks up after the snap. So all of these series that we're seeing come on Disney Plus from Marvel are picking up after the results of Infinity War Endgame. WandaVision we saw happen about a month after the snap and the fallout from that. And this is slated to be happening currently at about 3 months after WandaVision's whole moment happened. So we aren't right after the snap, but we are within the year of people coming back. And during Endgame, we learned that people have been snapped away, and the amount of time that had passed while they were snapped after Thanos did his thing was about 5 years. So we're really getting to see the characters pick up after that. We start the series off with Falcon, who looks like he's making a decision or has come to a decision and just trying to get to a good place with his decision. He is turning in Captain America's shield to the Smithsonian, but then we also get thrown into him working on a mission. But you can see that he's not operating in any real type of official capacity. They are doing a similar kind of like stealth mission, and they got to catch these particular bad guys, LAF, who are threatening to compromise one of their operatives or partners, the America's United States operatives or partners. They have to get them before they get out of a certain amount of airspace. And this sets us up to just really see where we are in reference to the Falcon's life, because we go on throughout the series and we learn that he doesn't have a lot of money. He's going back to Louisiana to be with his family, and they actually, y'all, in the series, he gets turned down for a business loan when he's trying to save his family's business with his sister. And this just lets us know that, one, the missions that he is taking are not necessarily in any official capacity, and that maybe the Avengers aren't necessarily getting paid or taken care of. We know Iron Man isn't here anymore, so everything isn't covered or on Stark Industries anymore. So we really just get to see what it looks like when you're out here on your own. And it's a little unfortunate because Falcon doesn't necessarily have too much to his name. I still can't believe that we're pressing forward without Captain America and Iron Man. Do I really even want to live in a world where we don't have those two? They literally single-handedly help build all of what this Marvel... You know what? I'm not even gonna go there. Apparently, I'm obsessed with Iron Man and Captain America, and the fact that they're not here anymore, I still have problems with that. Moving on. I miss them. Before I really jump into the series, y'all, it feels great coming off the heels of WandaVision and then getting a series like this in the Marvel Universe that actually looks like a film. And we get an incredible runtime of 49 minutes. Well, it's about 42 minutes, but then with credits and all that, it's a total of 49 minutes. And that's as close to the Marvel movie magic that we're going to get on this streaming network. And I'm very excited about it. I have mentioned this on numerous occasions, but WandaVision really threw me off. And I already wasn't a huge fan of every hero getting their own show and amount of content that was going to be. I really enjoy the Marvel Cinematic Universe in theaters, but this first episode literally gives you that. When we see Falcon on this mission, on this Air Force mission, we're thrown right into the Marvel action, the Marvel cinematic views, all of the tech that we saw. Actually a little bit of upgraded tech with Falcon and his little drone. So we don't wind up missing out on anything. We're not missing out on the film-like feel, especially with this series. After the mission is a success, we get to meet one of Falcon's little confidants or allies within the U.S. military. We know that he's operating a little bit more freelance, but he does have a friend. And this guy actually tries to, later on in the episode, infiltrate the Flag Smashers, who are the group that has the red hand over the world as their symbol, and their goal is to destroy world governments to try to bring people together. So he later on tries to infiltrate. They're building their own little program for super soldiers, and they're really working in the background trying to build their army to try to take down some government. So we know that we're going to come up against that later on, but we really get to see what Falcon's life looks like, and almost a juxtaposition, because I made a note a little bit earlier about him going back home to Louisiana and struggling to get a business loan for his family business that's struggling, and navigating life with his sister. His sister makes quite a few notes about how he was gone for 5 years and she had to figure it out, and she's been holding it together, and they're just about to sell and be done with it. So it's really interesting to see in this episode 1 the vast juxtaposition of this is Falcon, right? He is an Avenger. He is an enhanced individual. He has an enhanced skill set. He still is operating within that skill set, but he also is struggling just like everyone else post snap to put his life back together and create something that is worthwhile and enjoyable in reference to a life. And before I jump over to the Winter Soldier, I also want to make a note that I think that the Falcon does not take up the mantle and become Captain America right away, or step into Captain America's role right away, and is working in his freelance capacity, just accepting the missions that he actually wants to accept, because Cap really wasn't vibing with the US government. We had the events that happened in Civil War that really set us up for this, and then going into Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, the Avengers weren't necessarily jiving with the US government. The US government has made a bunch of questionable decisions. The US government has set them up for failure and has lied. And I believe that Falcon didn't want to sign over his life to just be a puppet or a patsy for the US government. In particular, he didn't want to be subject to Thunderbolt Ross's commands. That guy is questionable at best. And even though he is proven to be a part of the US government, we have seen quite a few moles, we have seen quite a few hidden missions, we have seen quite a few people who have actually turned out not to be allies in allied positions. So I think that we see Falcon decide to walk away and give the shield back because he wants to have a life that he actually has some control over, and he doesn't trust the US government. And another side note, isn't that art imitating life? Because our real government is, but I digress. We see Rhodey, or War Machine, in this episode as well, who kind of doesn't let Falcon off the hook either really easily in reference to walking away from filling in Captain America's spot. So I think that he's literally just here, one, to plug and be an Easter egg. He has his own series coming next year, but also to just really drive home the stakes of this is not going to be a good thing. The fact that Falcon hands over this shield, it will not be a good thing for us moving forward. It really is played out by how serious he actually talks to him and calls him to task, and look, it really should have been you, and they don't just let it go by in passing. When we pick up with Bucky in the series, he is actually having a nightmare, and it's taking us back to before the events of the Winter Soldier movie, and it actually shows us one of his missions being played out. And it's so unfortunate because his real life friend that he has today, an older gentleman, the mission that he's having a dream about is that he actually killed that young man's son. Apparently that young man was an operative within Hydra or in opposing Hydra. It's not really clear, but he is responsible for that person's death. And this older gentleman who he knows through in his neighborhood, has lunch with often, is really still struggling with the fact of his son's death. And Bucky looks like he's going to go and admit to it to try to atone, because part of his storyline in this episode is that he is atoning for a lot of his sins that he made as Winter Soldier. But then he kind of decides against it once he shows up at his house and sees the shrine that the man has towards his son, and he really just can't bring himself to, I guess, break his heart in that way. And it's really interesting. I love that they really put both Falcon and Winter Soldier in places of rebuilding, and what does this look like after Infinity War, and how do they create normal lives? Because even before that, they didn't have normal lives. They were Avengers. There was mission after mission. We were getting cinematic, over the top happenings all the time, but in this episode we literally are just thrown into real life with these two guys who are not normal but have to kind of be normal. Bucky is hiding the fact that he's Winter Soldier from the people that he interacts with on a daily basis. We see him go on a date here, but he is really struggling with a lot of the memories that he has from the missions that he did before. And we did see in previous films, like Shuri was responsible for, decoding and debugging and deprogramming him from before. But I think that it's still some things that are going to be lingering, because when we get to the end credit scenes, we start to see some of the commands that used to be in play as when he was Winter Soldier and operated as Winter Soldier for Hydra on Hydra operatives. So I think that Bucky's whole little storyline in this series is going to be very, very complicated, and it's not going to be easy, especially without Cap in the picture, for him to be able to create some sort of normal life. We have to remember he's 106 years old. He has no family or, other friends, anything like that are still around that he can rebuild with. He is struggling with these dreams, and part of his conditions or agreement with the U.S. government is that he will go to therapy, and the therapist has him atoning for his Hydra sins. So we see in the episode, we get a little comic relief when he goes and he starts to basically atone, but then also call to task some people who are still operating, who used to be in part of the Hydra operations and might still be in places of power. In this episode, we see him go after, I believe, a senator and, make his apologies, but then also call in the authorities so that they can be dealt with. So it's really interesting to see. I really kind of want to know where they're going to go with the Winter Soldier, because he's not necessarily taking on full-on missions, and he's also out here, I guess, kind of operating freelance similar to Falcon. They're not official parts of the U.S. government, but we know that they're going to wind up being on missions and teaming up. We also see that the Winter Soldier has been avoiding communication or calls from Falcon. So what is all of that about? The one person who really understands where you're coming from, the one person who knows what you've been through, and y'all been through a lot together, you're avoiding him. You sleeping on the floor at your place. You ain't got no real friends. The one friend that you do have, you killed his son. Like, it's a lot going on in the Winter Soldier's life, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. And before I go, I do want to touch on U.S. Agent Captain America, because we do end the episode getting to see who the U.S. is going to replace the Captain America character with. And this guy is supposed to be the most ruthless version of Captain America you could think of. Clearly, they're still operating in these super soldier programs, and this guy's going to be a problem. We do definitely get to see Falcon kind of like a little bit regret, maybe. I think that it's a regret on his face when he actually sees them announce this new Captain America, and he, I think, is going to wind up being in opposition to both Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because, like I said, the U.S. government be making some really questionable choices, and they don't typically keep what's in the best interest of the people in mind. So we'll get to see how that plays out. But now it's your turn. I want to know what you thought of episode 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, streaming right now on DisneyPlus every Friday at midnight. I'm your host, Erica Vane, and I will be breaking down each episode every single week, with new episode breakdowns coming on Friday as well. And in the middle of the week, I'm going to try to throw up a few deep dives, breakdowns, or story plot conversations, because I definitely think that we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled on all of these Marvel series, because we will be getting Marvel movies in the next couple years, and I believe all of the things that they put into these series are going to be Easter eggs and stepping stones and blocks that we're going to need to be able to make sense of a lot of the things that are happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe once they also start to release films again. If you haven't already, join the tribe by hitting subscribe and post a comment down in the comment section below. Give this video a like. I will see you in the next Falcon and Winter Soldier video, or you can jump into one of my other series breakdown playlists right here. See you in the next video. Bye.